What's up, big backyard people? I've got a spring garden tour for you today. Normally we're in the orchard or talking about all the fun ways you can use your big backyard, but this is one that we don't talk about enough, and one that's probably one of the top 3 reasons people purchase big backyard properties is to grow a little bit of food for their family. So I'm gonna let you know what I'm growing for my family and why, because it may not be what you think, and also how we're doing it with a couple of tips for the North Texas DFW area. Before we even get going, let me know in the comments what you're growing, what you want, what you don't want, or any advice or corrections you have for me. I'm not the best in the world at this, but we've been doing it for a while and we love it. So I'm standing under, I'm gonna call it our grape arch, but there's way more here than grapes. So we've got some Blanc du Bois, we have some Black Diamond, I think it is. I also have some muscadine coming up over here. I've got some raspberries coming up over here, and I'm trying to keep the blackberries off of this thing over here. So this trellis or arch is doing all of that with drip irrigation at the base, letting all that come up and over. And most of it is mature to the point that this year we should do really, really well. You can probably see some of the grapes right now. Muscadine is not quite coming on. And for our berries, most of those are fall producers. Even some of the June ones are not quite ready yet. So we'll go around this way. It's spring, so everything's growing everywhere, including in the cracks. I got volunteer basil coming out of my ears here. So we got a bunch of basil coming over here. We do let a ton of zinnia flowers grow in pockets on each side of our garden because they bring in a whole bunch of pollinators. So I've got some thornless blackberry over here and 3 different types of raspberries. And then I just planted brand new fall gold raspberry. So we've got some deep red raspberries, some big, huge Arapaho blackberries, and then also some fall gold yellow, almost see-through, fall-bearing, really sweet raspberries here. So all that's in here. We let it go a little wild. We let it spill out sometimes. It's very early in the season, so really all I'm doing right now is watering and feeding. There's other videos on our channel you should check out about what I do with transplanting these so that I have dozens of berry patches all over our multi-acre property here. And you can do the same at virtually no cost, just a little bit of time. So tons of zinnias here with basil coming up through pretty much everywhere. All of that is just volunteering from last year. As you make your way around the corner, here's kind of the tomato patch for this year. And we do mostly cherry tomatoes on our property. This is dead center facing due south with about 10 hours of daylight in this spot. So a lot of the bigger tomatoes just haven't done well for us. If that's going well for you, big beefsteak tomatoes, let me know. The best I can get is some decent sized Romas. We're Italian, we do a lot of sauce. But tell me your tricks if you're getting bigger tomatoes reliably in ground in your garden. We do a lot of Sweet 100, Sweet 1000. We do some black, some yellow pear, San Marzano, Roma, all different varieties of each. I tend to do 2 or 3 types of each and 6 or 8 types of tomatoes. So sun sugar here, like I said, Sweet 100, Sweet 1000 everywhere. I let a lot of basil come up for pest management. Really helps us keep some of the troublesome pests. All of this is on drip. We're remulching every year. We're putting a lot of leaf mulch and wood chip mulch in here every single year. A lot of basil here. At this time of year, I'm still pinching off all of my flowers. I don't want fruit, and tomato is a fruit. I don't want a lot of fruit right now. I want root growth, I want stem growth, and so I'll explain to you what I'm doing there, and I'll show you a trick that a lot of people know, but if you don't, you'll love it. We've got a bunch of our herbs and spices over here, so thyme, rosemary, oregano. I put a lot of extra oregano in my succa for spaghetti sauce. Not everybody loves that, I do, so that's why I grow a ton of it. And then we also grow a lot of that beneath our fruit trees all throughout the property and over in the orchard because they're good for keeping pests away as well. But as you can see, I've let that thyme go to flower and there's bees buzzing around it right now, which is helping us pollinate a bunch of stuff around the garden. Let me sneak through here, show you a couple other things we're doing. I was thinning out some of our zinnias that had volunteered over here this year because they'll get so tall, they'll shade out our tomatoes and our peppers and they won't let them grow as much. So pulling pecans out because we don't want pecan trees in the garden. And when I find other things, I'm just thinning as I go. But some seedlings coming up here are some San Marzanos I've seeded this year. You can see some thyme that's doing well here. This is like lemon thyme. I just like for the fragrance. Sometimes I'll literally like just rub my hands when I'm out here. These are transplanted tomatoes, and that's what I wanted to show you. I'm gonna go back over here in a minute. I'm gonna pull a sucker off of one of these cherry tomato plants, and I'll come back and show you exactly how I transplant them and turn 10 or 12 tomato plants into literally as many tomato plants as I want. You could say you're saving $5 or $6 each time, but you're also saving time so that you're not having to grow them from seed or from little bitty seedlings. I'm gonna come around right in front of the camera, show you what we're doing with peppers this year. Here's some multicolored bell pepper. Here's some jalapenos. And then I've seeded beneath here, and you can see some of those are just starting to come up as well. So I like those to have a little morning shade and afternoon shade. Those are everything from wax peppers to habaneros. So we'll let those kind of fill in here, but we have our two tried and true jalapeno and bell. That's an orange bell. That's actually a yellow bell, and there's some jalapenos underneath. So these zinnias will grow up. We'll check them back until our peppers get where we want to get, and then we'll let a little bit of shade in there so we can maximize our production. Let's go back over to the cherry tomatoes, and I'll show you how I replicate these plants easily over and over and over all through the year. So I'll come down here, and I'm just looking for a little side shoot. A sucker on these tomatoes is one that if you have a V in your tree and then you have one growing out of that little neck, we call that a sucker. So what I'm gonna do is take that, I'm gonna pinch that off. These are about to be tomatoes. I don't want that happening yet. You can come in close, you can see little bitty flowers inside of there. So I'm gonna pinch that off. And I'm gonna pinch off all but really these top 2 or 3 leaves, okay? I'm literally just now gonna look for a long straight stick. Maybe I'll find one over here. That's good enough. And what I'm gonna do with that, I'm gonna push this down in the soil and just create a little tube. It's nice and moist down in there. So I've just pushed that down in, created a little tube for this to go right back inside of, as deep as I can get it. I'm gonna pack that in, and believe it or not, I wanna minimize the number of leaves because that's gonna tell it how much energy it needs to support, how much plant it needs to support. So the drip irrigation, some of this mulch that I'm always leaving laying around in here, I'm just gonna cover that up. That will be another tomato plant. Now, those of you that are veteran tomato growers know, if I had laid that down sideways in a trench and only let a little bit of it stick above the ground, every one of those little follicles, let me grab another piece and I'll show you what I mean. Every one of those little follicles on those side shoots, that's another sucker. Maybe my shirt will be a good enough background. Can you see kind of the little hairy follicles on that? Every one of those is gonna turn into a root if I let it. So above ground, it's just part of the plant, absorbing oxygen and everything like any plant would. But if I put it below ground, for example, what I would do is I'd pinch that off, take all these leaves, and then I would plant it in a trench. All of that can be underground, and only that needs to be above ground. And I'm gonna get root growth out of all that instead of what I just did, where I'm only gonna get root growth here. Now, I planted that one about that deep, so I'll get pretty good root growth. And I didn't have room to build a trench because I had planted seeds around that. That's why I did it. It's always a good excuse. But if I were to plant all of that underground, it's gonna be one of the healthier tomato plants in my garden. It's gonna put all those roots off, and it's gonna grow the exact same type of tomato as I have here, which I believe is a Sweet 1000. So that's what I've got going on in my garden right now. Probably 3 kinds of blackberries, Arapaho thornless blackberry, 2 types of grapes, 1 type of muscadine, a 4th raspberry with the fall gold. I think this is 7, if not maybe 8 types of tomatoes, and I've got at least 2 or 3 of each, and I keep expanding. So throughout the year, I'll have something die, or I'll have a spot where there's irrigation, and I'll go, oh, let me expand that. This will do really well late spring, early summer. This will go terrible late summer when it's super hot. And then I'll baby them, I'll protect them. And the fall is actually when we do our very best with tomatoes and peppers. So 2 or 3 or 4 kinds of peppers as well. Now here's why that's what I grow. That's about all my family wants to eat out of the garden. They don't want lettuce, they don't want kale, they don't want Brussels sprouts. We don't eat those regular enough or in enough quantity. What we do is we make bruschetta, we make a ton of spaghetti sauce, we make salsa, we'll throw that on pizzas. So that's about, people say they have a salsa garden. I have a suka garden or a spaghetti garden, which I'm kind of joking, but really that's about it for what most people think of vegetables, even though tomatoes are fruit. But my kids like berries. They want all the berries they can handle. So I have a bunch of berries here. We put berries all over the property. They love grapes. They love to grab them and go. They haven't really gotten to know muscadines, so that's an experiment at the moment. But that's what's in our garden. All of these things could easily grow really well in your garden. Let me know in the comments what you're growing. And then if you'd like to have a property where you have enough room for a garden this size or much bigger, let me know. We specialize in helping people in the Dallas-Fort Worth area buy and sell small acreage properties, big backyards, half an acre to 10 acres or more. Not farm and ranch, not your normal residential property, in the middle. Small acreage, big backyard property. We love to help people dream these things up or just buy them so they don't have to do it. My contact information is below. My entire team and I have been doing that for over 20 years. Go check out over 800 five-star reviews. We'd be happy to help. Then let me know in the comments what I'm doing wrong or what you would recommend I plant or any questions you have about your garden. If I can help, I'll help. If you're buying or selling, we can help. I'll see you on the next video.